Hello, everyone. So I'm here with Mairead, and it's coming to the end of OCD Awareness Week, so we are just going to answer a few questions because, as you probably know, well, me and Mairead have already done this before.
Yeah, this is throwing it back right to the beginning, to the first episode we did.
Early pandemic days, you know. So yeah.
Talking about OCD as usual.
Talking about OCD is
What else are we talking about?
What else? Yeah.
Oh. So, we've had a few questions and we're gonna answer them, a few of them, and yeah, let's go. I'll just quickly summarize. So OCD is an anxiety disorder, and it's characterized by obsessions, which are like intrusive thoughts that come in and they can be of any theme, and they cause like huge anxiety with the sufferer, and as a result we go to like compulsions, which are actions either mental or physical to alleviate that anxiety. So just a quick example, like an intrusive thought could be like, what if I steered my car off the road into another car? And then a compulsion could be like a mental review, so like, I wouldn't do that, I'm not a bad person, I've never done that before. Like it's like a constant like, so mental reviewing can just be like looking over and over the past and like wondering about like who you are and whether you, that's such a long way to describe the disorder, but like, yeah, you get the gist.
Right.
Should we go first question?
First question.
So how was the first time opening up about your mental health to friends or family on social media?
So the easiest for me was social media. Like I think because it's less like personal, it was just like typing it out. Like, I remember doing my first post and being very like, oh, this is like, I don't know, it was quite exciting doing it for the first time, because it was this big, I feel like posting online is very therapeutic for me. It's definitely what helps me more than anything. It's just like letting everyone know. But with friends, I remember first time I ever came out, I guess.
Came out
was to my best friend Alex. It was just in a bar, and it was just like, because it was in 2017 when I was having really, really intense like thoughts about like harming people and like harming like just yeah. I was like, how is he going to react? And luckily it was always like the reaction you always kind of get is like, oh, like especially like even 3 years ago, I feel like OCD's definitely had quite a progression in the last few years of like people being more accepting of it. But it's just a lot of people are just very like, I just don't really know what to say, and it's quite new to them, I guess. But yeah, I'd say that's like it. I always like, as I was just saying before I before the started, I always like, so because I get really bad relationship OCD, which is like basically anytime I get into a relationship, my mind's like, you hate this person, like they're like disgusting, why are you dating them? So like every time I date a guy, I have to be like, just so you know,
way, there's this thing.
by the way, there's this thing that my mind does, where it tells me I think I hate you. I was like, and then just like preparing them for me like ending it, which is always like, a bit of a shitstorm. But yeah, that's pretty much like, I feel like it's getting it's definitely a lot easier than it used to be to like open up about it.
Yeah, but I don't know about you, but I always feel like I need to do basically what I just did at the beginning, where I'm like, but this is what it is. Like, even detached from myself, and like what I'm like, I need to like explain that what I have isn't this thing that you think it is. Probably it isn't about cleaning, like I'm such a messy person, like it's not about tidying, it's about like, it's an anxiety disorder. It's about me thinking that like a singular thought can mean like I am a bad person and like cause me this like feeling of being like endangered by a thought. And I don't really always feel comfortable like talking about the content of the thoughts, because they've changed so much over like years, and like the themes have changed so much. And I think like, obviously with you or anyone with OCD, we would probably talk about like every fucking whatever. Like I know that you understand the disorder, but I think with some people, there's an element to which I'm just like, if you haven't really been asked to like research it or know what it's about, and then I come out with this like thought about like, yeah, harm OCD, I just can't be asked someone being like, then worrying about it, or like, you know, thinking, oh my god, are they like dangerous, but like, I don't know, I think that that's an element to which sometimes I try and do it just for exposure, just to be like, you know, for anyone who doesn't know, exposure therapy is like part of OCD. I don't just do it for the exposure for the cow. Like, it's this thing with OCD treatment and therapy where you exposure therapy is like you tackle your fears head on. So like if I was having like harm OCD fears and anxieties, then me like saying on here, oh, I've thought about I've worried about in the past about harming people before, then that would be like exposure therapy, because in the long run that like makes me realize that the thought itself isn't the problem, it's my anxiety and like compulsions that are. So yeah, like doing this, talking on social media has been really, really helpful for me.
Yeah.
Really liberating. Like, I think it's the best like thing that I've done since realizing that I've had OCD, because it just has really helped me raise awareness, help myself, and also help other people. Like a lot of people who didn't even know they had OCD have come forward and been like, oh, this is what I have and I didn't know a name for it. So a lot of people have reached out as a result of it. I was a bit nervous beforehand for exactly that reason I just said. Like, I was worried that like by going into the themes of the thoughts and the obsessions, the worries, then I would be like making myself look bad, which is the whole problem with OCD, is that you think you're bad, or that you, the fear of looking bad, the fear of like the uncertainty about all these things. But yeah, overall it's been a really liberating thing.
Yeah, I fully like it. It's definitely like, again, like I fully get that. Like, even I'll still, there's some things that your mind does say that I'm still just not comfortable talking about online, because it's like, because the thoughts you get with OCD are just so mental, like it's absolutely like crazily dark, and you're just like what do you do with that? Like when you have that and you're like, if I open up to this to people and they aren't going to get it, they're going to think I'm a weirdo, or like
yeah, because they don't know what the funny thing is that I think those of us with OCD think that like these thoughts are so mental, when actually like I've been told by like a professional that, you know, and I've researched it, that like everybody gets these thoughts. They just, because it's such a passing thought in their mind, it's an intrusive thought, but it's not like causing the same anxiety that it does to the OCD brain, like the way it's wired. They just think like, oh, that was a weird thought, but it doesn't cause them that same anxiety that it does us. So I think that like most people have had the kind of thoughts but that we've had, but because we kind of get so triggered by it, I think with us it gets a bit more, that thought then comes back because they're like, because we've had such a reaction to it, our brain's like, oh, we have that thought again and again, and then it probably does get more graphic and more like dark, more repetitive, and more
it develops its own story, I guess. There's, like,
yeah,
different things.
Then we're like, we really are bad. Like, we must be bad.
The things you did when you were like 3 years old, and being like, I'm a psychopath.
Yeah, I always look back to my childhood, I'm like, oh my god, you know, and like it's just oh my god, it's just a whole thing of its own. But yeah, what the second question was, what can I do to help a friend? So say like when you told that friend, like I guess some people don't know what to do, but what do you think is the best thing?
I mean, if you have someone opening up about OCD, you've really got to be ready to be empathetic and listen, because some of the things, like, it is a genuinely like terrifying thing, opening up about like some of the things you say, because of like everything we've just discussed. Then you just be understanding, do research, like there's a lot online about different types of OCD, and I mean, we can definitely see that the stigma around, obviously there's lots of stigma around mental health, but I think there's definitely a progression now what's going on. But I just think keeping yourself in the loop, and I think that applies to every mental illness. I think, like, know just know about like mental illnesses that are around you and realize how like broken, not broken, that sounds like that's an awful word. Yeah, just I don't know, yeah, just be aware, I guess, is the
How broken the system is, because it's the system
yeah.
broken us. But yeah, like I think the same, like, you know, be aware of what the mind, what can do to people who are good people. Like everyone I've met with OCD of like some of the most sensitive, empathetic people, but just know that your friend with OCD is going to convince themselves that they're bad, and you telling them they're not is actually not very helpful either, because that's something that we call reassurance seeking. So as like a coping mechanism, almost a compulsion actually, when I was younger especially, it would be like, well, if I check that I'm like a good person, if someone else thinks I'm good, then that must mean that these thoughts aren't true about me. So it was like, you know, seeking that reassurance from like loved ones. I guess with relationship OCD, a lot of the time it can be like, it's making sure that you do love that person, that they love you, and like needing that validation. And yeah, there's a lot of different ways that happens.
Yeah, like with with a relationship OCD, like my way to prove that I'm still into this person would be like really romantic gestures.
Yeah.
So I'll organize a picnic or like something really just like out of the blue that I would never do, to be like, yeah, like you clearly like you want to do this for that person because like that's how much you love them. But obviously it's just never enough.
Never enough, because the anxiety is just like, with OCD, the anxiety links onto that 1%. So with everyone, like we're all probably 99% certain of things, maybe. But basically the point is that you can never be, even something you're so certain about, 99% certain about, you can never be 100% certain. There's always that room for uncertainty. And those of us with OCD will be like, well, I'm pretty sure I love that person, but like there's always going to be that 1% chance that you've, you know, it's just always there, and we've got to accept that. But our brains are like, no, I don't want to accept it. It needs to be like certain. I need certainty.
Yeah, it's a nightmare.
But I'd also say like, don't minimize their experience. Like you might come into that conversation thinking that the OCD is this tiny, like, you know, quirk, but like that might have caused them so much pain and so much kind of yeah, I mean, basically you can feel like your own brain is like torturing you. So
well, yeah, I think a lot of people people don't really understand like the emphasis on like it's literally a 24/7 thing. Like your mind is non-stop. I mean, not always, there's obviously like different cases, but like especially with Pure, like like you can like you'll be having a nice like a normal conversation. Like I'd be at bars and stuff and I could be completely distracted, but I still just at the back of your mind you're having that like cycle going on the entire time.
Yeah, like, but why did I think that this morning, you know, like and it's just, or it can be images as well, like images or thoughts, like but I also think that yeah, it really impacted my dreams as well with OCD. Like often the theme I'm worrying about, the intrusive thought, to be fair, I've been really well recently, but I think about a few months ago I was doing really, really well. I think it was during the first the series of this, and then one night I had this like such like a dark, scary, graphic dream, and I woke up like that was so fucked up, like, and I was so worried about what that meant. So I think even, and then I was like, you know, so tempted to research like the meaning of dreams, all that, because there is all that out there, but that I knew that was like compulsion. So I just to sit with the fact that yeah, I had this dream, yeah, it might mean something about me, but like knowing that it doesn't. But I think yeah, dreams can also go into your like dreams, because whatever you're worrying about in the day is likely maybe to appear in your dream as well. But my brain would then be like, oh well, if you dreamt about it, surely it's true, because you know it was in your dream. So it can really be a 24/7 thing, for sure. But in terms of what you can do to help a friend, I mean, you've covered most of it, but I think it kind of leads on to the third question, which is what can I do to raise awareness? Like, I think I appreciate it so much when my friends share like awareness posts, sharing information from pages like Obsessively Ever After, OCD Doodles, OCD Action, us, like just share what you can that's, you know, that's from someone with OCD or informed by those people. Don't share just like yeah, bullshit.
Yeah, just follow people on Instagram. Just awareness. I mean, I know that's literally what the question says, but like, just share things and like be an ally. Like, be an ally to people. I think that's an important thing to see, is seeing people without mental health disorders talking about mental health. Because it's like, I think I have a lot of friends who feel guilty about the fact that they don't have any mental health issues, and they're just like, it was like, I feel so bad that I can't relate. And I was like, no, that's not something like. No, never feel bad about it. Just it's just something like you've got that privilege. Like, use it. Use your like platform to like, spread it.
Yeah, definitely. Especially because long-term mental health conditions are considered as a disability, just like learning difficulties are, learning disabilities and like physical disabilities. So really, like, I find it quite like ableist when people don't like care about them mentally, or because they can't comprehend like that it's a disability and that it's something like, you know, when they see it as weakness or a personal flaw, or, you know, it's only because of a certain trauma. No, it's like a whole life, a whole brain. Like, people with OCD are considered neurodiverse, as are people with like ADHD, a few different Tourette's, like autism. There's quite a lot of things that fall under neurodiversity. But I think it's really up to people who don't have anything to be like, you know, grateful, and like I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy, this OCD, but also just aware and like educate yourself and share that with other people. So what's the fourth question, Zach?
I mean, could you maybe explain as best you can the thought process with pure OCD or pure O?
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, pure O is like the nickname for the type of OCD that's mainly in where the compulsions are mainly internal. So that's what I have. So and you too. So like, maybe this is also why I was so late to be diagnosed and so late to understand that that's what I had, because with pure O, like, your thoughts are you get the intrusive thoughts, you get really, really anxious about them, and you feel, for me it was the need to like really review it, think about why I'd had that thought, what it meant about me, what it meant about my past, what in my past had I done to like cause that, and whether it was true, was I a bad person. Like, it was rumination basically, and reviewing memories and reviewing the thought. So yeah, rumination was my main compulsion, but I just thought that, you know, oh, this must be just anxiety, this must be, anyone with anxiety must get. I knew that people didn't get thoughts or worry about the kind of thoughts that I did, but I just didn't know what it was. But it just caused me a lot of suffering. And then when I realized that this is also OCD, it's just that I didn't know the things I was doing were like internal compulsions. I just thought that they were helping my anxiety, but they weren't. They were like prolonging the cycle. The new theme would come, the new worries would come. So it's kind of that. But can you describe it on more like the actual process of when you get the thought, then maybe what happens?
It's quite a hard question. I think it's just you get the thought, and then like it's like this is like inward like conversation, kind of like it's kind of almost like the devil and the angel on your shoulders. Like, and it's just like one's being like, this is you, and the other's like, no, but think of all the reasons why this isn't you. And then you just go through all of these, like, which is the compulsion. Like, the angel, I guess, is I want to say, it's not even an angel, it's like a corrupt little angel. Who thinks he's doing like a bit of a virtue signaler, like, you know. Yeah. He's just like giving you all the reasons why you're not. I was like, no, this is what you need, and then like the one was like, yeah, but like there's always just like a counteract.
Yeah, there's always this thing going on, because like, I suppose the actual process on like a micro level would be like, the thought comes in, and then you like, scientifically, from what I've like researched and understood, like, your brain, because you've got OCD and it's like a brain disorder, like reacts because of all this time of doing this, like reacting so much to a thought, the like the wiring between like your thought and your response and your reaction, you create this kind of like neural pathway which like thought reaction, and that becomes like more solid over time, because every time you get these intrusive thoughts you react so much, then you do this compulsion to like calm your reaction down. But by doing that compulsion you're saying, okay, that reaction was valid and I need to like respond to it and then I'm fine. But when you don't do the compulsion, the reaction happens, you don't do anything to it and you're still fine. So it shows you that you don't need to do that compulsion, that kind of confirms that that reaction was needed. So over time this neural pathway becomes a lot stronger, a lot like stickier, and that just keeps happening. But what's quite interesting is that like it's the amygdala that fires, so you can't choose when your amygdala fires. Your amygdala is like the fight flight response that we needed back then. So when you respond in this way, like this anxious way, that's not something you can control really, the actual amygdala firing in that response. But over time, when you control the compulsion side and when you don't do that, so like where I am now, most of the time I can just have this intrusive thought, like be like, that was, you know, on paper they're weird, but I can just kind of not really react or do the compulsions, kind of carry on with my day, carry on with my conversation, and then they've stopped happening as much. So it's like a cause effect thing. The less you do your compulsions, the fewer intrusive thoughts you get, and like the anxiety isn't as bad either.
Yeah, it's actually weird. It was my own like you know, like when it just switches themes, suddenly you have a new theme.
Yeah.
It was that made me realize that it was all really stupid.
Yeah, I got that too.
Because like I was having these really, really dark thoughts, but then what followed was often.
Were you frozen? Carry on.
So it was just like, and then like in my head I was just like, oh, I said basically is what my head got stuck on. And it just like I was just laughing. I was like, this is so stupid.
Yeah.
And it just like put it in perspective.
Because that's the thing, when your themes, so when you're in something, when I'm like, you know, when this new harm OCD, like we've spoken about that, so when that comes in and I'm like, oh my god, would I hurt someone, have I got that in me, would I push someone off a platform, like the point is that like, no, if I worry about it this much, if I had that thought, well, imagine if I push that person onto the, you know, platform in a tube station, if I was that anxious by that thought, it shows that my empathy levels are high and I wouldn't actually do something like that. Someone who do that, like a psychopath, has the opposite to OCD. They don't have enough empathy and any empathy. But like the fact that we're anxious about it, so means that we wouldn't do it, but we just don't realize that in the moment. We're just like, well, why the fuck would I think it? Because people with OCD have this like big like focus and they put over importance onto thoughts. So but so in the time, like that whole month, I might go by being like, oh my god, I'm someone who throws someone off a platform, I'm evil, I'm a bad person, I'm fucked up. But then somehow the next month it will be like, you know, what would it be in the next month? Just like another, I'm trying to think about another theme, like the next month maybe you're worried about fancying a dog. Like I knew someone who had that fear, like oh my god, I'm attracted to dogs, like I must be, because I get this like thought, like no, not even a thought, I think they got some sort of like sensation, they were like, oh my god, I'm fucking crazy, like I fancy dogs. But like obviously they don't, because that's why they're so anxious about it, because it's not true, they don't get off on that. But you know, they got themselves in such a cycle, and then that was their whole thing that month. It's like, I'm a bestiality, I'm like into that. So you know, then you can look back over the last 2 months and be like, well, how am I this thing, this evil psychopath, murderer, whatever, and danger, and I'm all stretched, like I can't be this. And each month goes on and you realize you can't be all these things, but in the moment, in that month, it's like, but no, this time it is real, like this time I am that thing, I'm really, really bad, I'm so fucked up.
It's a vicious little cycle that's not even a little cycle, it's like a big boy.
Big fuck off cycle. Oh.
But right. Next question, which I guess is, does it get easier to handle? Yeah, I think just I think when like you grow. Yeah, I mentioned this in the last one, but you grow into it a bit. Like you come to accept that this is a part of you. And I mean, now I'm very much in the best headspace I've ever been in, which is lovely. And even now, like I'll be walking down the street and I'll like still get the thoughts being like, I'll walk past someone on the road, it's like I'll just like push them. I'm just like, oh, but I'm like, I'm just like, I'm very just like, okay, like I can let it pass now, which is nice. I'll definitely have like bad things when I'm really stressed, or relationships when they come along. But other than that, like
other than that, it's a breeze. Yeah, I think that's definitely true. Like the thoughts still come, but I just want to emphasize to anybody who doesn't understand that like these thoughts that come through, like, oh, imagine if I push that person into the platform or into the road or whatever, like they are thoughts that will pass through anyone's mind. It's just we're really anxious about them, but it doesn't make us any more likely to do it. Like, don't worry, don't be scared. But yeah, like ego, I think it's called ego dystonic. So OCD thoughts are like the opposite to a person's values and beliefs and actions, which is why they cause such distress. But it definitely does get easier to handle. But it does seem like the thing I value more. So whether that's like recently, like, oh, I want to raise awareness and I want to like do like social activism, that's what I knew, like big thing, the thing I'm really valuing, and it does attack what you're valuing. So it'll be like, oh, you're not good at this, you're a fake, you're actually a bad person. Like, you know, it will attack whatever you're whatever you love, and whatever's good, you know, good in your life. So it is quite a lot, but it definitely gets easier, and you get quicker at noticing it and recognizing it. So I didn't used to ever know that what the theme was OCD, but now I can quite quickly tell if something's quite urgent. Like if I'm like, oh, I need to respond to this person about this thing, or I need to figure out, like, you know, even with sexuality, like I'm like, I need to figure out what exactly I am, like, because I need a label. And I'm like, no, I don't need a label. Like, why would I? But that when that urgency comes, I think that's when I know that like it's OCD related, and that I don't need that urgency. I'm quite happy without, like, you know, it's whatever you're currently, you know, it's whatever the OCD attacks is what you care about. And obviously with your identity, you want to really understand yourself. So I think that's a big one.
I had one to do with identity in like March time, where I just got like, I convinced myself I was trans, and I was just like, in my head I was like I objectively just wouldn't care if I was, like, it's not something that like I feel attacked to, but like it's weird how it
like, yeah, you want to figure out your identity so much, so like, and you want to know, and that's obviously like normal to want to know who you are and what you're about. But I think when there's, how I recognize whether it's OCD or not is that sense of urgency around it. Like, at first, you know, I'm like, when I came out, I was just like, oh, quit, you know, whatever. That was not like actually that much of a big thing for me. I felt quite calm about that. That was like over a year ago, or about a year ago actually, like December time. But then, so really not that long. But at first I felt very calm about that, and then it's only like about a month ago that I'm like, you know, someone mentions labels or asks or something, and I'm like, oh well, how do I know exactly what my whole future will look like? Like, so it's about like it, and then your OCD is, oh well, I need certainty, I need to know, when actually you don't. So I think that urgency for me is like the main thing of realizing that it's OCD, and then I know how to like respond and how not to respond, and that makes it easier to handle, to actually answer the question. Yeah.
That was the last question. that we have.
Oh, well, there we go.
There you go. Any last comments on?
None from me. Do you have any?
I guess I'd say, like, for anyone with OCD that might be watching or hasn't even, I don't know, hasn't figured it out, hasn't talked to anyone, just, I guess, just know it's a lot less scary when you open up about it and realize that it's OCD rather than keeping it to yourself. Like, that's what makes it scary, is the fact that you have no talk network about it. So just, I really encourage you to, like, open up if you are watching this and are struggling.
Yeah, and to read like the awareness posts, and to like obsessively ever after OCD do, just like those kind of things from people with OCD, so that you know that what you have is like a condition, and it's a disorder, mental illness, and it's not like a reflection of you and your value, you know, your thoughts on a reflection of you. I think, yeah, like having that self-education and speaking to someone you really trust, or even reaching out to someone who has OCD, because I think, as much as we say like it is really, really liberating to talk about these things, that's only because I know I can back myself, because I have like the awareness and education about my disorder. I wouldn't want to kind of just willy-nilly tell anyone about my thoughts and then be like, what the fuck, you know. Like, I think it's important that it's someone you trust, or professional.
Yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, so there's 3 more days of OCD Awareness Week, so please like find some time to like read up and educate yourself and share it with your family who aren't on social media maybe. Yeah, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
See you next time.
See you next time. Bye bye.
Bye.